You are welcome to today's class. We have taught extensively on function. So today I'm going to round up function with this class called back function. Now to teach this class, I'm just going to give you a biblical illustration to this, and then I'm going to use technology to explain. The story of Genesis 21, the story of Abraham, Hagar, and Ishmael, right, is what I'm going to use to explain this callback function. Now, if you look at that story, you probably think that Abraham was a wicked man. I mean, why will you send your first son with the mother away with just a bottle of water, right? But if you look deeply into it, and if you look at the concept of programming, you will see that Abraham was a very spiritual man. He was close to God, so he understood spiritual things. So what did he do? He wrote a callback function while sending them into the desert. And that is exactly what I want to explain to you today. So there was an instruction that when you hear the child do this, now this should be done. You know, we've talked about we talked about how you do call by reference, where the soul give access to thought to manipulate anything inside the soul. So the spiritual cannot interfere with the physical if access is not given. So Abraham wrote a callback function that ensure that help will come to them in the desert. So I'm going to illustrate that using the concept of printer and operating system. So what is a callback function? A callback function is a function that is passed to another function as an argument, and then the calling function can now call at a later time. So it's like saying you install the driver of a printer in your computer. Now, before you install that driver, there was an operating system when you boot your computer and you plug the printer to the computer. The operating system does not know how to print. So when you install the driver, what you are simply saying is that I am the driver to this printer. When you have any document to print, please call me, right? So we are going to write a program illustrating that. Abraham used it to assist Ishmael, meaning he wrote a callback function and gave it to the divine and said, when you hear this boy cry, please do this, right? So he was not a wicked man. He knew what he was doing. So let's write that callback function between the printer and the operating system. So here I'm going to say first include stdio.h, right? Then I'm going to write the printer function. I'm going to write the printer function void, meaning it's not going to return any type. Void, I'll call it printer, and then it's not going to accept any parameter. So it's just going to perform an action. Now, what the printer driver is to do is what I'm going to summarize into my print function. Don't forget that. So I'm just going to say printf. So I'm calling my print function. The definition of this print function is gotten from this standard input-output header. So printf. So I will just write here, printing your document, right? Then I'll put this, yeah? Then I'll close this here. Okay, so this is my printer function. Then I'm going to close my curly bracket here. Then I'm going to write the function for the operating system. So that one too, void is not going to return anything. So I'll call it operating system, right? Then this operating system is going to accept this printer as an argument. So I'm going to pass um, I'm going to pass this function to this function, but I'm going to pass it as a function pointer. Why? Because in C language, function is not a first class citizen. So you can't move it around, right? So the best C can do is to create a function pointer. So you have a temple in one location, and then every time you come to that temple to pray, but what if you don't want to come to the temple, but you still want to exhibit the same energy as if you are in the temple? So there has to be a mirror, right? You can position a mirror to point to that temple, and then through that mirror, you can access the temple. Your ancestors were doing this, and they are still doing it up to now. So it is not evil, right? Now, that concept is what we are using in telephone. I don't have to travel to my community in order to see my parents. I can just stay where I am, and I will put the phone call through to them, and they will pick and we will speak as if I am with them. That is the concept of a callback pointer. So that is the concept of a function pointer. So now you are going to pass this function to this function, but you can't move the temple from the location because it is based inside that location. You know, C is like using a block of cement to build a house, while other programming languages like Python or C++ is like using a Lego. So you can dismantle it and then move it to another location. But in C, you cannot. So the closest you can come to moving a function is by using a pointer. So we are going to pass a function pointer to this operating system, right? That will expect this print function. So there, to do that, I'm going to say void, right? Then I'm using this asterisk. So I will just call it callback. All right, so this is the function pointer that I'm passing. Now inside this operating system, I'm also going to call my printf, and I will say I have a document to print. Right? Then I'll call this callback. So this is how you call back a function using the function pointer, right? In the last class, I did a type def before I created the function pointer. That was to explicitly show you that that rem is existing, that pointer rem is existing. So you are pointing to the temple, right? So there is a parallel wall, there's the other wall, and then you are accessing the other wall through this wall. Now I created a type def to demonstrate that when I taught trampoline. But in this class, I did not create the type def. So I am writing this, but implicitly that I've used this pointer function tells you that there is a parallel universe, there's a parallel wall, which is the pointer wall. I did not create type def to give you an alias, right? So you have to understand that. So I am calling the function using this method. This is how you do that. Now I've written my operating system. So I'm going to close this. Now I'm going to write my main function, which is the soul. So int main. Now, inside this main function, I'm also going to write printf. I'm calling the printf, and then I will say, so the printer is now saying, so printer is saying, printer, um, if you have a document, call me, right? I hope you can still see that N, but if not, I just put the closing bracket and then I put my semicolon. All right, so this is my main function. Now, inside this main function, I am now going to call this operating system. So I will say operating system, right? Now I'm going to pass this printer function to it, which is this one. So I'm passing it to it, printer. Then I'll close it. Then I'll say return, right? 0. Then my curly bracket, I'm going to close it here. So this is my program, a callback function. So you come into the main because this is the starting point. Then it will encounter this printf. So it will print out this on the wall, print on the screen. Printer, if you have a document, call me. I could have written this printer that is talking. OS, if you have a document, call me. But just because of space, I'm shortening that. Now, this is the operating system function, which is this. I'm calling the operating system inside this place. So control will come here, right? Control will come here. Then this printer, which is the address, will be given to what? That is the address of this printer will be given to this guy because this is called by reference. So the address will be given to this guy and then it will come in. When it comes in, it will print out this one. I have a document to print on the screen. Then it will call this function. So it will call this function and that will come to this guy. So from here, it will come here. Now this one will now printing your document, meaning the operating system has given the document to the printer. So the printer will now print it out. The printer driver, so this is the printer driver. This printer driver will now print out that document through that printer. So this is how it works. When it finishes, it will now come back to this guy, right? And then this guy will now come back to the calling function, which is the main. And then it will return to the operating system saying, I am done with all the tasks, no error. So that is the end. So a callback function, right? Now, anytime this operating system has a document, it will call this guy and it will print. So that brings us to the end of function. We'll continue with other topics, but extensively, I have taught you function. I'm still going to teach pointer as a topic on itself, but with all the things that I've explained to you in function, learning pointer will not be that difficult anymore. So a pointer is what you use that enables you move a function as if it is a first class citizen. So a callback function is a function that is passed to another function as an argument. And then the calling function can now call it at a later time. So let's go to code blocks. Let me demonstrate this for you to see. Okay, so this is our code block and this is the program I've written. I also added comments. So the first comment is step 1, define the printer function. Step 2, define OS function that takes a callback function pointer. Then step 3, call printer function. Step 4, main function to simulate program. Then step 5, OS is told which function to call when printing is needed. So that is what I have written here. I have this statement. So those are statements. That's why you're seeing double front slash. So let's just execute this program. I've explained the program on the board. Let's execute it and see what the output will be. So the first thing to print out on the screen will be printer. So printer is talking. OS, if you have anything to print, call me. Then you are calling the operating system here and you are giving the printer function to it. So it will come here. The operating system will go in, accept this argument, then it will print OS. OS will say, I have a document to print. Then it will call that function that was given to it here. So and that function is what the printer function, which is this guy. So this one will now print. It will now show printer, I am printing your document. So printer is speaking here to the OS. OS is responding, and then printer will print this out. So let's run it and see what the output will be. So it will build and run, that is compile and run. All right, so this is my output. So you can see the first one, printer. OS, if you have anything to print, call me, which is this line. Then the operating system is called by the main. Then the operating system will say OS. OS will now say, I have a document to print. And then it will call the printer function. The printer function will say, I am printing your document now. So you will see the document coming out from the printer. So that is what I want to show you in this class. So till we see in the next class. Bye-bye.